Good to go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Upper Darby Planning Commission meeting for June 10th, 2024. Calling the meeting to order at what looks like 7:03. Quick visual roll call. Everyone is here tonight, and I'd like to do a special welcome to our new member, Lee Jordan. Thank you for accepting the position on the commission. You all have the minutes from May's meeting. Was a lot about water control at the park.
Need a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to
All
accept
right,
the
I'll make-
minutes?
I'll make the motion.
And a second? That's it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. We have no communications or bills to worry about at this point. And tonight, there is no land development plan for review. So we can go right into the zoning section where tonight, Josh has put together a presentation that gathers up pretty much all the work that's been done on the smoke shop ordinance so far. This is a presentation he gave to council a little while ago. As he goes through it, you'll see the discussions that we've had about the C2, the C4, the 500 feet, the 1,000 feet, and all that is captured in this presentation really nicely. When he gave it to council, it was very well received. And Josh, if you could remind us where in the process we are at this point, because we're actually almost done. This is almost ready for council to vote on.
Getting there. Yeah, thank you, Debbie. So we are moving through this process, right? It kind of started bouncing around the planning commission with us just kind of talking about some ideas and getting all of that into a rough draft, right? Working with our other department heads, working with police, fire, right? Getting our code enforcement, getting everyone together to try and hash out this rough draft, right? Taking it through council, getting their immediate feedback and changes in the administration, and then going right, and officially getting permission to advertise, right, presenting to the public, getting feedback on it from the public, and now we're here in actual Act 247. So as a reminder, right, Act 247 is the official process that, right, municipalities can either accept land developments or also go through zoning changes. So whether it's municipality or an outside factor that wants to change the zoning, right, they have to go through that Act 247 process. That process, right, just as a recap, is the application will come to the planning commission here. It will come to the county planning commission. Both planning commissions will make a recommendation. Those recommendations will then be taken to council, and then council, based off of those recommendations, will make a final approval of it. It's a little more complicated with some certain advertising when it comes to changing municipal zoning ordinance, but that's essentially the long and short of it. But we're at the point where, right, we have an amendment that council pretty much agrees on, and now it's going to these external commissions for comment, reviews, feedback, and things like that. So at the end of this, right, that's pretty much, we'll put together a letter with, right, any comments that you guys have, and ultimately a letter of recommendation, right? You can either recommend approval, you could recommend a revision, or you could recommend not approving this ordinance as is. And any other comments?
So what's changed since the last time we saw this?
So there's two ways I could go about it. I could just go over what changed,
Okay.
or I can go through the whole
Go
ordinance.
through the whole thing.
And I can point out some of the stuff that
Okay.
had changed from our previous conversations. Whatever, I can do either one.
Well, you were gonna go through the presentation.
I was just gonna go through
Yeah,
the
do that.
presentation. Yeah, we'll do it holistically. All right, let me zoom this up. Okay. All right, now we're good. So this is, again, the same presentation that I gave to council and I gave at the following feedback meeting. But I will go through it, and because this is, a rather small informal group, you guys stop me. We can talk about it as we go, ask questions, whatever you need. It's totally fine, as long as the audience member doesn't mind. All right, so a little bit of background, right, on the original ordinance 3106. It was enacted by Upper Darby Township Council on December 1st, 2021. There's two primary sections to it. Section 1 created a nail salon zoning, but it also made it so that no barbershop, beauty salon, or nail salon could be within 300 feet of each other. Section 2 is where we get into the actual smoke shop legislation, right, and added a definition for a hookah bar and a smoke shop / smoking parlor. It allowed smoke shops in every commercial district, C1, C2, C3, and C4, and it sets certain special exception requirements such as distance, parking, ventilation, and alcohol prohibition. There were a lot of good things that came out of the ordinance. This is actually a snippet of the definition. It added a nice, clear definition for and requirements for a hookah lounge. It defined what materials would be considered part of this. So, right, if you read through this definition, it actually does cover a lot of associated smoking and hookah accessories, which I think is really nice. It adds alcohol prohibition to all of the places that are either smoke shops, and it defines hours of operations, which is great because it reduces that because we had a lot of problems with the hours that these stores operate. So that was great. But right as we were starting to actually implement this ordinance over the last couple of years, a couple of issues came up in the actual implementation. The first is that there was quite a bit of lack of clarity between what is a convenience retail store and what is a smoke shop. A lot of smoke shops are getting lumped together with smoking parlors under the same definition in this code, which they're really not. And can be rather confusing, right? Is it a smoke shop or a smoking parlor? Because those aren't quite the same thing. And then our current measurement standard, 20% of total merchandise, is time consuming and ultimately very easy to evade and difficult to calculate in the field. I've myself lost this case in front of the zoning hearing board because it's not actually, right? You can't actually go and calculate 20% of the merchandise for each one of these stores. It's not possible with the amount of time that we have. Oh, and the smoking shop and smoking parlors lumped together, that actually came from this planning board. I believe that was one of the recommendations as we were originally going through it. We've got a lot of complaints from Upper Darby Police. They reported trends of robberies, assaults, and illegal sales to minors in this retail category. We often get community complaints that come from zoning hearing board meetings, that come from council members, that are received by the mayor's request line. And we've also found that the first piece, the 300-foot rule between barbershops, beauty salons, and nail salons, creates a lot of red tape for opening new businesses. It has proved to be a hassle and, a pretty significant increase in the amount of zoning and time that we have. And we included it in this because it was originally part of the original ordinance as part 1, right? Otherwise, right, it would probably get its own separate one. But since it was already in the original, we figured we would amend it all at the same time. One of the reasons that we need to amend this is because we're getting a lot of businesses that will receive their approval as a convenience retail store, but effectively over time begin to operate as a smoke shop. So that's one of the reasons we really have to clear up the definition, right? There's an estimated 22 actual smoke shops, but it's estimated that 40 to 70 convenience stores are operating as a smoke shop because of the loose definition.
Josh, can
Yes.
I'm sorry, I need to backtrack just a minute.
Yeah.
What was the reason for the barbershop and beauty shop rule? What was the reason for the 300 feet?
I couldn't say at the time. I wasn't here.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's an old rule.
No, it wasn't old. It was added in 2021.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I think there for a while, that people were feeling like there was a nail salon popping up.
Right.
storefront.
Yeah.
It was just,
Oh, much like the auto repair?
and smoke shops.
Oh, okay, I see.
So, right, we came up with 5 changes that we would need to do for this ordinance. Change number 1 is changing how we define a smoke shop, right? Improve that definition, change how we measure and determine what is a smoke shop and what is not. We need to revise the number of zoning districts that allow smoke shops by special exception, right? Right now, it's every commercial district. We want to bring that down. We want to update the special exception requirements, and we want to add stricter signage requirements for these shops. And then we'd also want to revisit and amend that 300-foot rule for barber shops, hair salons, and nail salons. Right, the first thing we want to do is we want to move away from the existing definition. Right, the existing definition is 20%, or sorry, wholesale or resale establishments which maintains 20% of its total merchandise. We're changing that to go from 20% of merchandise to 15% of its retail floor space. So this means that, right, we're going and we can actually take a measurement of that retail floor space. We're also including that all tobacco merchandise, vapes, and vaping accessories as described should be displayed together, add a definition of tobacco products for clarity, and then also changing the smoking parlor to cigar lounge. These are all defining changes. So this is a little different than what was discussed here at Planning Commission prior. So prior, we were looking at doing, right, adding the area, I think, of the wall and the side, but we had to simplify it by just making it 20%, or sorry, 15% of the total retail floor area. So if you look up the diagram, this is essentially how, right, we would go in, or our staff would go in and see if an applicant or a store is over that 15%. So, right, we go and we'd find the total, right, area of the tobacco products. And if that area, right, is more than 15%, then it would be considered a smoke shop.
Are we mandating a floor plan?
Just has to be 15%. So it can be however they want to do it, but it'll also be in one spot, which is actually backed up by state law, which says that anything that is used for tobacco is supposed to be behind a counter or within reach of the clerk. You're not supposed to, you're not allowed to have like kids be able to walk into a store, grab something, right, and walk out with it. So it's got to be back behind that counter. So we're enforcing that, right, and we're saying everything has to be together. And that will make it easier to calculate.
And does that also include the paraphernalia that goes along with it?
Exactly, yeah. So that we're keeping that same definition, really that broad definition that we talked about in the beginning right here, keeping that same definition.
Okay.
So, right, and I can go into a little bit, right, for examples of products and accessories are include but without limitation e-cigarettes, vape cartridges, refills, vaporizers, vape pens, vapor products, hookah pens, electric cigarettes, e-cigarettes, e-pens, e-pipes, any other electronic nicotine delivery, and then tobacco, cigarettes, cigars, pipe stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So all of that must be behind the counter?
Or in the same area.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what we'll use to determine that 15%. Now, if somebody has some stuff on the counter in the one corner, and maybe they have some stuff over by that game of skill there, then guess what? We're taking the measurement of the whole thing, right? So they'll also be incentivized to keep it all in one area so that these convenience stores don't over time get converted to smoke shops. And that's the real idea.
And if there are two counters,
They can pick one, or they can hope that that area is small enough to be under 15%.
I see.
I'll introduce them to snacks and bubble gum and soda.
Okay.
It's the joke. Does anybody have any questions about the site plan as it is and the 15%?
I have just one thing. So I'm looking at that, at the presentation, and then I was flipping through the wording ordinance as well. So I'm just thinking on page 9 is where we talked that we're changing it from 20% or more to 15%. Couldn't we also keep in the word or more? 15% or more of your store space than your smoke shop.
Yes, that's a good comment. Maintains 15% or more of its retail floor. Yep,
Yeah, that's page 9.
I got it.
Okay.
Brava,
Good catch.
brava.
Anything else for this, or keep going for now? All right, so the next thing, right, is moving it out of these special exception uses for every commercial district. So on the left, right, you'll see a map of the C1, C2, C3, C4. This is every district, right, that a smoke shop's allowed to open and operate in. We're recommending that we reduce that from all 4 districts to only C2 and C4. C2 is the district in red, that is our shopping centers district, and C4 is our districts in brown. The reason for that is we wanted to get it out of the C1. C1's our lowest intensity commercial district. It also happens to be usually along our corridors. So think of roads like State Road, Westchester Pike, Long Lane, Vermont. It's these kind of roads, right, that have these long commercial districts. They're typically one parcel wide on either side. But because they're only one parcel wide on either side, they have a lot of conflicts with residential homes and neighborhoods. So the first step was moving it out of the, reducing those conflicts with nuisance uses. We also wanted to remove it from the C3 as that was already our highest intensity area.
I think
that
that
leaves us with
logic
C2,
of
C4.
one parcel wide on the C1s is very compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Like, your back neighbor is a residential house almost every time.
Wow.
Any questions, comments, concerns on this part?
No, Josh, I just have a question.
Yeah.
Probably back on the overtime,
Mhm.
I forget, probably like this fifth slide. You say you have your estimated the 40 to 70 convenience stores operate as smoke shops.
Mhm.
So I guess once it's, how are you going to handle this? Like, are they going to be grandfathered or?
No, so the only ones that will be grandfathered are ones that are legally have gone through the special exception process and are operating as smoke shops. And even those smoke shops, right, will only be grandfathered unless they are, right, abandoned for 1 year. So, right, for these convenience stores operating, right, they, right, still say that they're convenience stores, which means they'll have to be a convenience store according to our zoning code. So there's going to be a massive code enforcement effort and an educational effort, and it will be a transition, right? We're not going to go in and start slamming fees in. We'll work with business owners. We'll make sure that there's outreach. There will be a process.
Okay, so when this passes, there'll be like a campaign to just go out and educate and just tell them what they need to do.
Yeah, and it will also be, right, as businesses are coming in too, right? Because the way we did it was like, it's very easy to show them the site plan and be like, this is where you can have the tobacco products, right? If it's going to be more than that, then, right, there's going to be an issue, right? Then you're going to have to apply for the special exception, or, right, if you're in the C1 or C3, you have to apply for a variance, which the bar is so much higher.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so the next thing, right, is updating the special exception requirements. So what you see here is I had originally proposed, right, between 500 feet and 1,000 feet from any public, private, or charter school. Everyone I talked to is very much on the side of 1,000 feet. So that's what we.
No surprise.
Yes, it's fine. I wanted to give the option. So that's what we had in the final version of the ordinance. But it's also, right, including some other setbacks. I think we're bumping up each smoke shop to each other to 1,000 feet. Right, continuing that prohibition on alcohol.
Is 1,000 feet, what, a block or two? What
No, that's more than a block.
visually, how,
A
football field?
Yeah,
100 yards is 3 feet, so 900 feet.
better football.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're also including, let me see, 1,000 feet, parking spaces, adequate ventilation. All retailers must group tobacco products together. We're including escalating violations can result in the revocation of their special exception requirements. Right, selling to underage children will result in a revocation, and same with any other violations. And that means that they'll have to go back through the zoning hearing board, which could also, right, result in a loss from anyone in the existing non-conforming areas. So we're being more strict, essentially, with the existing shops that are there. Here's the rest of it. Right, and they'll have to submit elevations, spot checks, selling expropriated to minors, and escalating violations will result in loss or suspension of use and occupancy and/or special exception. All right, so the last thing is this, no, not the last thing, but the last thing related to smoke shops is adding stricter signage requirements. So I think this is under, I think it's actually under, on page 7. So, right, making it that, right, anybody that says that they're selling cigarettes or tobacco products or vapes, then will be considered a smoke shop, right? And then making sure that the window signs on the building counts towards the allowable square footage, not allowing a movable electronic signage on these stores, or that advertised tobacco is, I think, how we have it worded. There should be no moving and/or electronic signage or lighting permitted for the advertisement of tobacco products, except for signs that have met the special exception. So unless they are actually a hookah lounge, cigar lounge, or smoke shop. But so for all the convenience stores that stick up that neon flashing smoke shop sign, those will be gone. That's what we're really going after. Signage has to be limited to less than 25% of the window, or 75% of the window must remain open, and temporary signage must be removed after 30 days.
Josh, does temporary signage mean like some of the things they park on the sidewalk?
Park on the sidewalk, like
They
what?
have sometimes that, like those tall flags that say
Yeah, so those-
open, or
yeah,
those
those
people,
would count,
things
yeah.
that go like this and wave in the air
Those would all count.
as
Yep.
part of their.
Those are all temporary, yeah.
Okay,
But we're also thinking like just clearing the windows at all, because a lot of people will use that as cover to think that they can do whatever, and then we increase crime, we increase, right, drug use, blah, blah, blah. So making sure that those windows stay clear and open. And then the last recommendation, right, is trying to cut through some of that red tape for our new business owners, right? Increase the soft costs by, right, one zoning hearing board's at least 1,200 plus an attorney fee, so you're probably spending 12 grand or 2 grand just right off the bat if you want to have one of these businesses. And it's reducing the cost and time of the zoning hearing board, so we're recommending removal completely of this and just letting the market work itself out.
Just on the nails.
Just on the nails, yeah.
I didn't see, or maybe I missed it, the parking, what parking requirements are involved?
So I think we're keeping the same parking requirements, 1 space per 200 square feet, which is a set more intense than I think our regular grocery stores. Those are either 250 or 300. But I think that's already in there for smoke shops. So that would mean like you would have to have 1 space per 200 square feet of floor area.
Okay. Mhm. And what about large billboard signs? Are they allowed? Like like, I don't know, what you see on Westchester Pike and Township Line, the large billboards?
I mean, they would be allowed to advertise, right, for anyone that pays for the billboard.
Okay. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a totally separate.
That's a separate.
I see. Okay. Mm. Shame.
So that's everything I have in my presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing if that's all right with you guys.
Mhm.
And you guys all have a copy, obviously.
Yep, yep.
Mhm.
So what's the process now? So we would recommend,
So now we can have some discussion.
okay,
Open up to public comment. If you guys have any specific recommendations, changes, things to think about, we'll get that on the record.
okay.
And then, right, someone can make a vote to recommend or to revise, resubmit.
so amongst the commission members, does anybody have anything further they'd like to bring up, or any further questions for Josh? I mean, my comment was just add the words "or more."
I don't have any more. I mean, we've.
Okay,
talked
No,
about
I'm good.
okay.
Yours.
Then, sir, as a member of the public, would you like to add anything further? Okay.
I do have a question. Up here, tip of the township, Hilton Gardens Shopping Center, for the wild ones, that's the gym, I guess?
Yes. I can pull the zoning map back up.
And then what's that other section there? Would that be, like the Aronimink section, or whatever what do they call it down by the Speeds?
By the what?
I'm trying to figure out, what is that other section? There's two sections there. The tip of it.
Here, Jim. You look on the screen, I put it up here.
Is that shop right there?
Drexel line?
That's Drexel Line, yeah.
I mean, pretty much it's gonna be C2's shopping centers.
It's all shopping centers, yeah. Everything in C2, think of Bond, think of ShopRite, or Drexel Line, think of Barclay Square, think of Pilgrim Gardens, right? That's our C2 districts. What's nice about C2 is, right, they're unlike the C1s, they're pretty much to themselves, right? They usually center on themselves, so you have a little less disruption with the neighborhood. What's also nice is, right, they can only be 1,000 feet from another, so it also kind of stops multiple in one area because
So the one that's now on State Road in Vermont, I think there's one right, isn't there one right in that, like?
Do you need this up? Is this helpful?
Yeah.
Probably.
Isn't there one in there?
Yeah.
No, that would be a C, that's a C4.
C1.
So
Where are we talking about?
that's a C1, sorry, C1.
So they, so no, but they're gonna stay as long as they comply.
Which one is this?
State and Vermont?
Anybody who's in a C1, they get to stay.
If they've been through, right, if they are
if they're
legal.
legitimately-
If they are legitimately a smoke shop that got, either they've been operating since before 2021 as a smoke shop, or if they got any type of zoning special exception since 2021, then they could continue to operate. And so they could sell to somebody else and that person continue to operate, because that's all protected. Now, if they vacate the property or abandon it for more than 1 year, then that's when they would lose their special exception status and they'd have to apply for a variance,
Okay.
which the bar is harder, or sorry, the bar is higher and it's harder to get.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's not one in Fulton Gardens, and there's been no shops there for rent. I guess it's too expensive.
Too expensive. Plus, you're gonna get, in Pilgrim Gardens especially, you're gonna get pushback from Havertown. Because that's right in their backyard. And that's what happened with the Starbucks. That was approved in that plot right next to the CVS.
Right.
Upper Darby approved it, but Haverford sued. So it never happened.
Still, they're still going through litigation, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
But
not the
you get
crux of
pushback.
me, but
Yeah.
the Havertown was right. That was a crazy plan to come up with. I think, I don't know.
What, traffic laws?
I'm open. Good point. I'm open.
Tell us how you really
So at this point, would we, I think we would be ready to offer that we would recommend, we would be ready to, yeah,
Yes, yeah.
with the few changes, with the one change. Yes, so somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval with that change.
Now what happens next? It goes to the county planning commission?
Goes to the county, I'm presenting to them, well, actually, I don't know, I'm just gonna be there for questions.
Okay.
But it will be there on the 20th, and then we're gonna do some advertising in the paper, make sure we're hitting all our NBC requirements, I'm working with the, solicitors on that one.
Okay.
And then, yeah, council, hopefully, maybe our first July meeting.
That quick? All right, good.
That's the goal.
Okay.
Do that. Right, the planning commission come back and say, hey, there's some big red flags that you guys haven't addressed, and then maybe it takes a little longer.
And council already saw it and was
Mhm.
very upset. too. They
Council's
really liked it.
pretty on board.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we get to the
Maybe the
county.
planning commission will see it and say, hey, 50% seems like too little. We don't know. At 15%, you know, 50% might not be that magic number. We're not really gonna know that until we figure it out. Might have to come up with another change, you know? You always gotta think of planning as cyclical, right? You implement something, monitor the results, make changes, re-implement, you keep going until you hit the best product.
How'd you come up with 15%? Was that just research of other ordinances? or-
15%, it was closer, there wasn't too much research other ones. We just felt that that was a good amount of space, for, you know, a good ratio. It was close to the original 20% of merchandise, but a little stricter. And we felt that that would be the appropriate, you know, size for like, you know, behind the counter and everything. And also the.
Do you have a listing of all the ones that currently are in the township? Is
All
that,
smoke shops?
yeah,
Uh,
I guess.
Yes.
Where would you find that?
we have it made up somewhere, just because
Okay.
we, you know, we went on campaign to make sure that they're following
Right.
hours of operation and things like that, but we do, it's not a public list, but I can get that list.
Yeah, because I remember, because when the one was The zoning board was hearing the one that was going to go on Drexel and Township in that dry cleaner. I remember at that time, I counted there were 18. I thought it was. Which, didn't you remember that? I didn't go through. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
You counted 18 where, like, where did you count the 18?
I just, in the township, I just like kind of, I just did my own due diligence.
Just you just drove
looked
around,
it up.
it was like
Yeah.
21?
Yeah, that was just, Googling and looking it up, and that's how many I came up with.
How many do you think there were, Josh, if you had to guess?
When we did our real preliminary, which was a long time ago, I think we got around 22. But some of those also might have been regular snow shops operating at it, or it shouldn't have been, but, because I know one of them we closed down, because it turns out that they didn't get any permits.
Oh.
But they, they didn't operate since I got here.
Wow.
Well,
God bless you.
thank you for leading us through that, Josh. It's been many months of us trying to figure out even how to get started and how to measure and so on. And this has really turned into something that I think is so well put together at this point. I hope it sails right through the county. So next up, old business. Does anybody have anything rolling around the back of their mind from before that we've forgotten about or haven't finished up? I don't.
I just wanted to ask about, and this was a long time ago, and I thought we talked about individual private fencing on residential homes.
We did do a fencing ordinance last year. We had adjusted the fence ordinance as
Yeah.
far as placement and height, materials and so on. We did do that one. Yep.
Okay. What happens, who checks that? Because I've noticed a lot of fencing coming up in the areas that I live in.
Yeah, so I mean, we also, when we did that, we instituted the fence permit. So we're checking them as they're coming in now.
Okay.
So before that, there was no fence permit. So people would just put them in, hope that they were right. And then I'd have to go around and tell them, hey, sorry, you built your fence wrong, or you're not allowed to build a fence here. But now we have a permit as part of that change that came through here and came through council. So we see them all before they go in, make sure they're right after they go in.
And,
So they should be legal.
That's
Not-
if they ask for permission.
well,
That's-
that's what I
it's
was
not a
getting ready to
guarantee.
say. How do people know that they need to even ask?
So, I mean, it's on the website. We put it out in the newsletter.
Okay.
But, if you see a fence going up, there should be a building permit attached to it. So they should have the permit posted. If you don't see it, please drop a line into the request line and we'll go take a look.
But Cassandra's right, I walk through her neighborhood a lot, there's a lot just went up. There's
Yeah.
6-foot fences on the property.
Yeah.
In front, a lot. It's not like one or two.
And they're not just like panels, they're like complete blackout.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
on
when
Avenue,
we're done the
Yes.
meeting, I don't want to make you do it on the public, but tell me, tell me your neighbor
After the
after
meeting.
the meeting ends. and
Okay.
We'll go take a look.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have to
Also,
broadcast it on YouTube.
also in my area, because I live close to the Acme, I am still seeing these carts, their shopping carts on the street, on
people- People
sidewalks.
take them home.
From the
Yeah, and what I don't understand is supposedly they put in those black carts that are supposed to, I guess, halt beyond the property.
Right, the lock.
I've seen people obviously defeat that. And they're just walking down the street with a black cart. I don't understand, how do we monitor this? How do we reconcile this? Because this is, at least in the summertime, this is a real eyesore.
Yeah,
And a traffic hazard, because when they're out on the street, they can just roll into the street, roll into someone's car. It's like open season.
yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be anything that we could do as a group. But, the code enforcement could keep an eye on it, talk to
Does
ShopRite.
anyone talk to, I mean, I've called Acme probably 20 times in the last year. And they called me to tell me that they put in those black cards. But someone other than me needs to hold Acme accountable for this.
Understood.
That's my
Okay.
2 cents, my soap opera.
It could also be worth talking about with your council person for your district.
Okay,
Yeah, that could be worthwhile.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say council or code enforcement would be the directions I'd lean towards.
Cool.
Yeah.
That works.
Okay, does anybody have any new business to bring up before the commission? Nope. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. Thank you.
Third, fourth,